actually going to start in what I think Nancy's doing, and that's child's pose. So that'll give us a good stretch to go. So let's get started. Thank you for the feedback and letting me know that, all of you that are taking care of something. I am gonna hit that mute button, but at any time you can unmute yourselves and continue to ask questions. All right, so let's get to it. So child's pose, you all are, all the doggies are here tonight. Aw. You all are expert yogis and yoginis, and you know your bodies better than anybody else. So you know what child's pose works for you. I do want our forehead to be making contact with something though. So if your forehead does not easily touch the ground, you're gonna stack your fists, your arms, or a prop underneath the forehead. Because one of the reasons we practice this pose is to redirect our attention inward pretty quickly, to block off that third eye center so that we can undo all the overstimulation that our brain takes in throughout our day. Once that contact is made, you may stay in a more active child's pose with the arms extended forward, maybe even rising up onto those fingertips with the wrists and elbows elevated. You may be in a much more passive version of this with the arms more soft beside the body. And of course, you can take props behind you. So once we've figured out where we need to be tonight, let's let the whole body get that quality of heaviness and just start sinking towards the earth. Letting go of our day, letting go of where we just came from, and physically, mentally, and emotionally settling down onto our mat, onto the ground for our practice tonight. Start to move through the whole body. Still taking our mental scan here, fingertips to toes, front and back of the body. Areas that we feel tension, tightness, soreness, let's try to allow those areas to relax by breathing into them and really using our exhale here to get a release as much as possible. As we continue to sink and relax the body here towards the ground, we'll feel that through the low back, around the hips. Again, we should feel a little acupressure point at the third eye center, Agnya chakra. And now we'll spread our awareness to our breath. So at first, just observe the natural breath moving in and out, ideally through the nose. Our breath might feel a little bit different in child's pose because we're a little bit more compressed around the abdomen here for some of us. But I want us to allow the belly, the heart, and the head continue to sink towards the ground. But feel this breath moving more in the back side of the body. So feel the back rib cage expand and contract with the breath. And a little bit more of that focus on our exhales this evening. This will help reduce tension and stress in the mind and body, and also allow ourselves to go a little bit deeper into our practice and even some of the poses. And let's all cycle through one more round of breathing here in this pose. We can still try to let this next breath be our biggest breath of our day yet. So the next time we get to an inhale, really feel that expansion. Try to fill yourself up as much as possible in this pose, breathing in that fresh air, prana, and energy tonight. Same thing on the exhale. When we get there, we're going to take our time to exhale and clean everything out, let everything go. Feel that contraction, a little bit of engagement of the abdominal muscles. Exhale every last drop. At the bottom of that exhale, you can give the fingertips and the toes back there a little wiggle. Gently float the head up, and we are going to come up. So we're going to start to float our body up out of the pose. Slow, mindful movement. Let's stack our joints and go right into our tabletop. Spread those fingers wide. Draw the shoulders over the wrists or the wrists under the shoulders. And same thing, hips over knees, knees under the hips. Flatten out the tops of the feet or curl those toes under. We're going to give our legs a nice stretch from that compression. So stabilize the hips and the low back. Let's stretch our right foot straight back behind us. The foot is to the floor. Try to really lift up through that thigh bone so that we can open up the eye of the knee, get some blood rushing back through there. Big breath in. Exhale, knee comes down. Stabilize the hips and the low back. Give your left leg a nice big stretch back. Now we can shift our weight a little bit through that heel. We should have equal weight in our hands and be mindful of where the head is in space. Lift that thigh bone up. Breathe it in. Exhale, bring that knee down. Now let's go right into a few rounds of cat-cow to help loosen up the back. On the inhale, relaxes the belly, but lifts and lengthens the spine from the tip of the tailbone to the crown of the head. Our exhale draws the belly in, scoops that tailbone under, chin to chest, drishti to the belly button, rounding the back. Now we'll come back to a smooth and even breath. So we didn't really talk too much about our pranayama and child's pose. We were just kind of starting to feel it. So now in cat-cows, I want us to start establishing some samavritti pranayama, or even equal breath. So whatever count you're inhaling to take your gentle back bend and extension, maybe that's a count to 3, 4, or 5. On your exhale, I want you to round and flex the spine for the same count in the beginning. So pair that breath. Try to get a little hip action in there with the tilting of the pelvis, opening up the front and back of the heart around the shoulder blades, and the head can move in line with the spine. Now, if you start to get into one of these and it feels really nice for our back and what we need, start hanging out a little bit longer. So if we need some more rounding to stretch the muscles, hang out in your cat stretch, little lateral movements. If we need a little bit more back bending in our lives, especially if we do lots of sitting throughout the day, hang out there. The breath should stay even and smooth, however. And then we're going to come back to a neutral spine. So let's balance ourselves out. We'll end up back in tabletop. So a little bit more stronger movements here. Stabilize the hips again by drawing that low belly in. We'll re-extend our right leg behind us, but this time we're going to float it up parallel to the floor. So squeeze the right buttock and hamstring and hover that right leg. The foot is actively flexed as if it was pressing into an invisible wall. Now we may modify this, so we might stay here, dropping the foot down as needed and just taking the leg stretch instead. If we want more, draw in through the belly and add the left arm, our spinal integration, the left arm reaching forward, palm in, thumb up. We'll take a breath here. Some of us might choose to hold our isometric hold tonight. If we want a little bit more, we'll get right into the core. So on our inhale, we'll open the right leg to the right, the left arm to the left, away from the midline. And then exhale, we pull the leg and the arm back to center. So you can keep moving with the breath. Inhaling to open. Exhaling, squeezing to close. If we are moving, let's do one more. On that next exhale, when we bring the leg and the arm back to center, let's take one more inhale in this pose and just try to lift the leg and the arm up a little bit higher. Exhale brings the hand and the knee down. And we'll take a couple rounds of cat-cow before we do the other side. So you're welcome to rise up on those fingertips in Hasta Bandha, or take fists for wrists as needed for the wrists. On the inhales, our gentle back bending. Exhale, scooping, tucking, and rounding. Balance the body out, come back to neutral. Draw in through the low belly. Other side, keeping the low back and hips level. Left leg stretches back. You're welcome to stay in the stretch, stretching the backs of the legs, which is important for our inversions. A little bit more strengthening. Hover that left leg parallel to the floor, foot flexing. A little bit more core work. Right arm reaches forward, palm and thumb up. We'll hold in this isometric hold here. So this pose helps strengthen the whole body, but especially on the core. And then if you want to add that movement for more, inhale, left leg to the left, right arm reaches to the right. Now, if we're doing this movement and exhale pulls us back, you want to try to keep the arm and the leg parallel to the floor. They're going to want to kind of sag down a little bit. So we want to try to move them in that same plane. Good. One more for moving. Next exhale, we'll pull the arm and the leg back to center. We'll inhale, lift it up. Exhale, hand and knee comes down. Take a couple cat-cows. And then coming back to neutral spine, let's walk ourselves towards the back of our yoga mat. We'll have the toes tucked under, the knees are still about hips width apart. Let's sink it back into a bow. So here the head might not touch the ground, but we're still drawing our sit bones back to those heels, giving the soles of the feet a nice big stretch. Let's rise up into Hasta Bandha. So pick up the palms and the wrists and just drive the fingertips into the floor. That'll give our wrists a break. And that also will be a nice stretch through the length of the shoulders in the back. On our inhale, we're going to move forward to kneeling plank. So we might need to walk our hands slightly forward so that when our hips come in between the knees and the shoulders, our shoulders are over our wrists. And then the exhale, we'll draw back to that bow, lifting the palms, giving our wrists a break. Inhale, we glide forward into our kneeling plank. Remember, in kneeling plank, we should be able to pick our knees right up off the ground and be in a full plank position. That's the alignment. So we're going to keep doing this gentle movement here, but a little bit of upper body strengthening. When we're ready, we'll add our half chaturanga. So inhaling, kneeling plank. The exhale will bend the elbows into the rib cage. Make this a micro movement if you're taking care of your back or shoulders tonight. And then you can inhale, straighten the arms. Exhale, bow it back. So if you want to move with the breath, it's an inhale, kneeling plank. Exhale, a micro, maybe a little bit deeper bend in the elbows. Inhale, press into the ground to straighten the arms. Exhale, take a bow. Now we have been working on these, so if you want to stay forward in that kneeling plank and do some repetition of your tricep push-up or chaturanga, you may. Just make sure you're not compromising the spine. So the spine should be in neutral position the whole time, and your head is moving in sync with the torso. It's not bobbing and lifting on its own. The head isn't doing the work here. It's all in the back of our upper arms. All right, we're gonna come forward one more time. If you're already there, you can stay there. The next one is when we're gonna come down onto our bellies. So try to control it. Draw that belly in as slow as we can go. Good, elbows in, elbows in. Once we lower down onto our belly, flatten out the tops of the feet. Open the legs wider than the hips, almost as wide as your yoga mat, especially those of you taking care of your back tonight. A little bit stronger, zip up the toes and the legs. Now slide those hands directly underneath the shoulders and stretch the chin forward. Tighten up the back of the body, upper back, mid back, low back. Give your glutes a squeeze. On the inhale, lift the heart. Draw the shoulder blades together and down the back, Bhujangasana, Cobra Pose. So this is a little bit of stretch through the front, a strengthen to the back. On the exhale, let's come back down, lower the chest, chin is forward. Inhale, squeeze to lift it up. Keep the back of the neck long. Again, the head isn't doing the movement. We're contracting the muscles of the back to lift the heart. Lower on the exhale, inhale to lift. One more time. Exhale to lower. Inhale, lift, and hold it here. So the legs are strong. Crown of the head is reaching forward, shoulders are pulling together and down the back. Let's see if we can float our hands up from the floor here. A little bit more powerful. Inhale, using the muscles, maybe we try to lift up just a little higher. And then on our exhale, we will slide our elbows forward into Sphinx Pose. So Sphinx Pose is going to be a little bit bigger of a back bend, but a softer, more gentle extension. So the elbows under the shoulders. Knife the pinky edge of the hands into the ground. Now relax the buttocks and the legs. You let the heels flop open here. So the back side of the body is nice and relaxed. You can even give your hips a little wiggle as needed. Now press down into the ground through the forearms and draw the crown of the head forward to the front of the mat. And then lift and lengthen up the length of the spine, gazing straight forward to the horizon. So the arms are doing the work here. We're stretching the front of the body, lifting up to the crown of the head, relaxing the back of the body. Take a nice deep breath in. Let's give our neck a little twist tonight. So on the exhale, we'll look over our right shoulder. See if we can find those heels back there. Inhale back to center. Exhale, peek over the left shoulder. Now see how far you can see. Can you see the feet, the heels, something back there? Inhale it back. One more time each side. Exhale, rotating through the neck. See how far we can see this time. Good. Inhale it back. Exhale, bring up the neck to the left. Inhale, the head comes back to neutral. We're going to take a break here and then we'll do a little bit more of our strengthening. Turn the elbows out, stack the hands. Either drop that third eye back down onto the hands, or you may turn your head to one side if that's more comfortable. If you're going for this continued acupressure and activation of that third eye center, we'll keep the forehead down. Relax the whole body, relax the back, take the breath. Now slide those hands back underneath the shoulders, chin is forward. Activate the feet, press the legs into the ground. Inhale, squeeze to lift the heart up, Cobra. Exhale, elbows slide straight forward under the shoulders into Sphinx Pose. So now we're going to get into a little bit more of our strengthening, our forearm planks. If you are taking care of your low back tonight, you might just want to hang out in Sphinx Pose tonight, helping to decompress the spine, and then lowering back down into that crocodile with the elbows out at any time. You want to do a little bit of toning and strengthening. We're going to interweave 10 fingers, tucking our toes under behind us. And then this is where we're going to take a breath in, gazing forward. On our exhale, the whole exhale lifts us up. So as we exhale, we look down, we push down, exhaling, contract the abdominal muscles, lift up through the belly, the hips and the thighs. Our torso should be parallel to the floor, kneeling plank. Inhale, we relax into our back bend, thighs, hips, belly down, gaze forward. The exhale, push down. The whole exhale lifts us up because we're contracting our abdominal muscles. Press into the earth, lift the belly, the hips, the thighs. Forearm plank, kneeling version. Inhale into lengthening and extension, gaze forward, Sphinx Pose. Now keep going with your breath. You can move at your pace. Good. Taking breaks as needed. I love it. Now those of us that want a little bit more tonight, when we start to lift up, we'll add the knees. So we'll hover the whole body parallel to the floor. And same thing. Inhale, knees, thighs, hips, belly down, gaze forward. So we're inhaling into our back bend. And then exhaling to contract and lift super strong into forearm plank. Good. Let's try 2 more tonight. And we're taking things nice and slow to make sure that we're moving mindfully. And our breath is our assistant here. Actually, should be our guide. We're going to meet on the inhale, lowering everything back down, gazing forward. On the exhale, flare those elbows out, stack the hands, relax the feet and heels out, and pause a Makarasana again. So we want to relax completely. We've got to train our body to turn it off when we want to turn it off and turn it on when we want to turn it on. So when we relax in Shavasana or any other restorative pose, we really are training the mind to completely relax the body at once. So let it go. One more breath here. And then one more time. Hands under the shoulders. Strengthen through the feet. Press to the tops of the feet. Chin is forward. Inhale, squeeze to lift. Cobra pose. So now we're turning it on. Those muscles should be firing. Exhale, elbows slide forward. Sphinx pose. Gaze forward. Breathe it in. Interweave all 10 fingers. Tuck the toes under. Exhale, look down. Push down. We're going to lift the belly, the hips, but this time, inch your knees forward a couple inches so that your knees come back underneath the hips. So it's like we're in tabletop, but we're on our forearms. And this is actually a modification that people that have any wrist issues or they can't do all those tabletops on their wrists, this is a nice version. So our modification will be to stay here tonight and our forearms. So building up this upper body strength, but without compromising any back stuff. Those of us that want to take it further into our dolphin pose tonight, we've been working on this. This is preparatory pose for forearm balance, Pincha Mayurasana, and headstand, Shavasana. Draw the belly in, press into the ground. So you got to fire up those shoulder girdle muscles and start to hover your knees from the floor. So at first, the knees are deeply bent. We're on the balls of the feet. Your heels will not touch the ground in dolphin pose. At this point, you can drop the head down and look to your toes. The head should not be touching the floor. It's dangling. You're pressing into the ground through your forearm. But the belly's drawing in. And then eventually, you might be able to try to start straightening those legs. Maybe one leg at a time. Keep pulling the belly in to protect that low back. This is a powerful pose for that shoulder girdle, and it is an inversion. So when we're doing these poses, they do help decompress the spine, taking the pressure of gravity off the back. It takes a lot of core and upper body strength. And then maybe one more breath in our dolphin pose. Head is hanging, arms pressing into the ground, belly in. Heels can be striding towards the floor, but like I said, they won't be touching. Inhale. Exhale. We'll hold for 2 more breaths, those of us that want it. Next inhale and exhale, we'll lift the right leg up parallel to the floor, intensifying this pose. And then that second breath, we'll lift the left leg up, inhaling, parallel to the floor only. Exhale, bring it down. One more breath in. And exhale, drop it down. So we're going to come back onto our knees, flatten out the feet, start to walk the body back. The hands can follow as we sit all the way back into our child's pose. Again, the head needs to be contacting something, so that might be stacked fists or hands. If the head touches the floor, slide your hands back beside you to your feet and drape the arms beside the body. So dolphin's a pretty powerful pose. You feel a little bit of heat moving through the body, heart rate kind of intensified, all effects of that pose, but always just come back to a nice, smooth, even, steady breath. And then next inhale, stretch those arms forward, float the head up, bring the body back to tabletop, spread the fingers, tuck the toes under. Now we're going to move into our first Adho Mukha Svanasana, another inversion, but this will feel quite different than dolphin pose. So we'll be able to feel the openness still through the front of the chest. The head can just be dangling as well. Feel free to try to straighten the legs out and downward facing dog, one leg at a time. We're still engaging through the lower abdominal muscles. Equal weight in those hands, press to the knuckles of the fingertips. And see if your feet can be as parallel to each other and symmetrical to each other as possible. Still an inversion, so we always want to be mindful of any blood pressure, heart conditions. We'll take one more breath in our pose. Inhale, looking forward. We'll walk it into Uttanasan, forward fold. So my low back people, bend your knees, place your elbows on your thighs, or even your hands on your thighs. You can be in a supported squat position. If we want to stay upside down and stretch out the backs of those legs in the back, you can be in forward fold. You can have your hands to your elbows in a ragdoll. Belly should be engaged. All of us should have super strong feet and legs. So again, those muscles should be turned on. The muscles we can kind of turn off here are the muscles around the neck and the shoulders. We can just kind of try to loosey-goosey the weight of our arms and our head a little bit. But the abdominal muscles, pelvic floor muscles should all be engaged. One more breath here, still upside down. Now we'll all bend into the knees, placing our hands on our thighs, fingers turned in, taking it up slow with an inhale, tuck the chin to the chest, and inhale, use your strong legs and core to rise up. Inhale, inhale, inhale. You get lightheaded from being upside down all that time, just sit down. Let the head be the very last thing to come up. Purposely squeeze your shoulders up, purposeful tension. Exhale, relax the shoulders down. We're standing in Tadasana. Try to take in even more air and immediately inhale, the arms widen up. Now create some space to the front of the body. We've been in some flexion there through our hips. Draw the palms to touch and exhale, hands to heart. So feel connected here through the feet, nice strong legs, unlocked knees, four corners of the feet equally weighted. Still lifting up through Mula Bandha in the pelvic floor, Uddiyana Bandha, the lower abs. The head is relaxed. Big breath again. Inhale, draw that big circle, widen up. We'll add the feet, so heels will come up. Create length through the front of the body. Exhale, try to slowly lower back down. And we'll do two more of our palm tree poses, trying to create that space through the body. Getting our brain to start thinking about some balance here. One more, reach as tall as possible. Reach, 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 good. Exhale, lower it down. So we're gonna move right into our standing balances tonight. So we might need to reorient ourselves in our space and on our mats. And we're probably gonna want some type of props to be as an assistant as well. We'll start with our Uttanasan that we've been practicing, pyramid pose or side stretch pose for the backs of the legs. Will turn into an inversion for some of us. And then we'll do Prasarita Pada Tadasana tonight, which is another standing forward fold for the legs and an inversion. So I like to use my chair as my assistant to come up and down in these poses. You may take two yoga blocks about shoulder width apart, and we'll want to turn for the first one, staying forward to the front of our mat. So you'll place your props to the front of your mat for the first pose. So I'll give us all a moment to get organized with that. And some of us might not even use the prop today because we might stay more upright with our hands on our hips and just work on balancing and core. Some of you have the flexibility to bring the fingertips to the floor. So whatever works. All right, looks like we're good. So we're gonna start back in Tadasana, facing our props, feet are hips width apart, pull up to the front of the legs, pull the front body to back body. We'll start with our hands on our hips. We wanna keep our hips pointing forward and level to each other. So you were talking about you're kind of shifting your weight over to carry weight on one side and trying to keep it balanced. It's gonna be really important to make sure we're not kind of leaning into one side or the other in this pose. So from here, take a step back with the right foot. And it's not a huge step, it's about 2 feet or so. We'll let the right heel angle in slightly, 10 to 15 degrees. Now the pelvis likes to follow that direction, but we want to re-square it. So right hip forward, left hip back, and they're level to each other. Really important to draw in through those lower abdominals. The heart can open. Take a nice deep breath in. Equal weight in the legs, knees are unlocked, and on our exhale, we're tipping from the hips. So the spine should not round. Keep your head in line with the spine. Good. Keep your hips level. That's the trickiest part of this pose. So you might come down just a few degrees and be like, this is enough for me tonight. I'm gonna hang out here and just work on the balancing aspect. If the breath allows, this is where we'll start to maybe move a little bit further with each breath. Don't rush it. Starting to feel the stretch up the back of the left leg. Balance those wine trays on that low back. Try not to spill any of that precious wine. The drishti can be forward a few inches in front of that left big toe at first. And then as that breath takes us maybe further into the pose, fingertips come down, drishti moves to the left big toe. And then those of you going further into the inversion, eventually you can frame the left foot with your fingertips, look towards the left knee, and if you're close, add your throat lock, drawing the chin to the chest, and try to press your forehead, third eye center to that left knee. Even if that means bending the left knee forward a little bit, that's okay for this variation because you're getting the added benefit of that closure of the third eye center. Throat lock, little sips of air through the nose. We're going to try to hold for 2 more breaths. So the next inhale is going to lift us up about halfway. So you'll re-extend through the neck, fingertips to your props, draw the belly in, lift the body up about halfway. So you might even want to bend your knees a little bit deeper, pull the belly in. On the exhale, you're bringing one hand at a time to the hips. You got to press off your front foot, and on the inhale, lift up through the crown of the head. Inhale, inhale, inhale to come up. Good. Once we're upright, exhale, right foot steps forward. We'll extend the arms out beside the body, float the head. Let's turn our palms forward tonight and spread those fingers and pause and mountain pose, Tadasana. Make sure we have our bearings, that our breath returns to normal. Inhale, let's reach the arms out and up, create some space through the front of the body. Exhale, bring the hands back onto those hips. They're square and level. Try to keep them that way. Step the left foot back, same amount of distance. That heel will angle in just slightly. The toes will turn out. Now make sure left hip is forward, right hip is back, so they're right where they started in Tadasana. Unlock those knees, so no jamming of the knees or locking them out backwards. Pull in through the low belly, open the heart, inhale. On the exhale, slowly and just minutely, a little bit, whatever the word is, start to move towards the pose. Testing the waters. Breathe it in. Exhale, see where the exhale takes you. Maybe a little bit further, maybe not. One side could be significantly different than the other. Every inhale, we want to create more space through the front of the spine. Every exhale may be an opportunity to move in or out of that space. Receiving a nice big stretch up the back of the right leg. Where's the wine tray? Can we keep it nice and level on that low back? Drishti starts out a few inches in front of the right big toe. If the fingertips start to move down towards the prop to the floor, bring the drishti to the right big toe. Hips are level, low back is level. Those of you in the inversion, release the head, look to the right knee. If it's nearby, try to press the third eye center into the knee, even if that means bending that right knee a little bit. Throat lock, Jalandhara Bandha for that as well. It's a little bit more challenging to breathe. You're taking sips of air through the nose. Two more breaths. Our next inhale starts to pull us up out of the pose about halfway. Fingertips, long spine, gaze forward. Strong legs, strong core. Exhale, one hand at a time to those hips. And then inhale, press off that front foot and start to bring yourself up. Inhale, inhale, inhale to the crown of the head. Nice. Once we're upright, exhale the left foot forward. Float the arms down, palms forward. Focus the drishti on one spot and just breathe. And then one more bigger standing pose, Prasarita Tadasana. We might still want to use those props, but we will probably want to move them to the long edge of our yoga mat because we're going to end up opening up nice and wide in our neutral position. And so we want to make sure that we have a grip with our feet. So take a moment to reorganize. If you're moving those props around, my low back people, your core should be engaged. Bend those knees. Do it mindfully. Once we're reorganized from Tadasana, we'll take a big step out, one foot at a time, and extend those arms out from our shoulders. So at first, the feet are parallel to each other, meaning the toes should be pointing straight forward, in line with those heels. Let the arms be strong, but the neck relaxed. Breathe it in. Exhale, now the hands are gonna re-grip those hips, so right along the top of the pelvis there. And we'll turn our toes in slightly at this point. That internal rotation will help the pelvis tip forward. Still drawing through the core. Inhale, heart opens. Exhale, same movement. No rounding of the spine. Your drishti should actually stay more forward in the beginning of this pose. Make sure you're not jamming your knees back. You're pulling up through the quads. You want to try to tighten the front of the legs so that we can stretch the back of the legs. Keep pulling your shoulder blades together and down the back. Again, props, fingertips can move to those if your breath allows you. The inhale, come up out of the pose a little bit. Create more space in the front of the spine. And then exhale, try to get the movement from the hips, going a little deeper into it. So the breath is making these small, subtle movements in the pose. Inhaling, creating the space. Exhale, maybe moving into it. So now if you brought the fingertips towards the floor, your props, the drishti can stay right underneath the tip of the nose towards the ground. Those have either gone further into it. You may flatten the palms out, drop the head down, and look to the horizon behind you. Some of us might even be able to walk the hands back between the feet until the fingertips and the toes are on the same long line. If we're there, we bend the elbows back like the legs of a bird bending backwards. Widen the sit bones. The spine is still nice and long, but if you're releasing the head, really let the head go, but continue to try to pull the shoulders away from the ears. So try not to collapse the shoulders to the ears and shorten up the neck. So you're still actively using your upper back muscles to draw those shoulders away from the ears. Legs are strong, equal weight in the feet. So press through the mound of the big toe inner heel, mound of the pinky toe outer heel. Make sure you're not rolling in or out on those feet. Another nice way to get our inversion, that blood flow to our brain. And to stretch out the backs of those legs. One more breath. On the next inhale, same thing. We start to come up out of the pose about halfway. We want to lift the chest. Find our fingertips or our props. Strong legs, even bend the knees a little bit. Exhale, one hand at a time to those hips. And then inhale, use your strong legs and core to come all the way up. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Once you're upright, inhale even more air and reach the arms up. Big stretch. Bring the palms to touch and exhale the hands to the center. And then we can heel toe or just step, step, step the feet in. I could hang up upside down all night tonight. It feels so good. So we're gonna do one more balancing pose to work our concentration and our brain. If you need to move props out of the way, do so. If you're where you wanna be right now, just stay there. We're gonna step the insides of the feet and legs to touch. Lift our heart up into those hands. Start squeezing, compacting the hips, lifting up through those lower bandhas. So Vrikshasana tree pose is the balancing pose we've been practicing this month. We'll float the right heel up. Same thing here. If you collapse your hips in tree pose, this is a really good time to maintain those level hips. Open the hip, pointing the knee out. Sole of the foot floats below or above that standing knee. Keep drawing into the lower abdominals. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Relax the muscles of the face and breathe. So the added element I've been adding into this balancing pose is practicing our blind balancing. Tonight, if you want, float the arms out slightly higher than the shoulders and take Chin Mudra in the hands. We bring the index finger and thumb to touch, a seal of wisdom and knowledge. Whenever I practice my blind balancing, I usually incorporate Chin Mudra. For me, it really helps. And then at this point, you're either gonna let your drishti go fuzzy or start some slow blinks. And then eventually we wanna try to close our eyes. Now, you will probably fall out of the pose, so you just need to make sure you don't have any obstacles around you to fall into. So if you're doing blind balancing, at the minimum, you should feel pretty shaky because all your stabilizer muscles are kicking in to figure out where you're at in space. We rely about 90%, if not more, I can't remember the exact number, on our site for balancing. But over time, we can improve this, and that will improve our concentration and focus. Good, I like the weeble wobble in trees. Now on our inhale, we're gonna start to flutter those eyelids open. Try to keep it, use your drishti. On the exhale, we're gonna bring our hands down to our hips. Gaze forward, point the knee forward, stretch the foot out forward. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, bring the hands to heart center. Compact the hips, lift up through the bandhas, pull the belly in, relax the face, the shoulders from the ears. So the lower half of the body is fired, turned on. We can kind of soften the upper half. Obviously, those muscles are still working to hold our hands and head on our shoulders back. Left heel up, open the hip, point the knee out, sole of the foot floats up. Again, your pelvis should be level. If you've jammed into one side and sunk into the other, you gotta work on leveling it out, squeezing it to the midline, pulling up. Adding those arms, if you want, might help with some of the balance. Chin Mudra into fingertips. And then start playing with blinking the eyes, closing the eyes. The breath should remain steady. God, I love it. Some of you guys are really challenging yourselves tonight. So I've mentioned this before, but they use blind balancing and rehabilitation for people that have injured or broken bones around their ankles, knee injuries, because on a physical level, it really does improve the strength of those stabilizing muscles. And then of course, I've mentioned that our balancing poses, especially blind balancing, Research has shown that it does more for our brain power than all of our crosswords and Sudokus. So good stuff. One more breath. The next inhale, try to flutter those eyes open, immediately find a drishti. Exhale, hands to hips. Point that knee forward, stretch that leg out, bring it down. Float those arms down. Let's pause in Tadasana for a moment. Keep the focus. Notice the rhythm of the breath. And then inhale, big stretch. Reach it up. Palms touch. Exhale to center. So if we've moved around, let's come back to the top of our mat, back into Tadasana with the arms out, palms forward tonight. Nice strong legs, standing against that invisible wall, really improving our posture here. Again, with the breath, inhale, let's reach it up. Last chance, a little bit of extension, bringing the drishti up to those thumbs. On our exhale, we'll micro bend those knees, hinge from our hips, and move back into whatever version of Uttanasan we're taking tonight. Might look different for all of us. Inhale, halfway lift. This exhale, we'll bend our knees, plant our hands, and we'll take a big step back, going back to downward facing dog tonight. So our inverted V. So draw those heels towards the floor, whether they touch or not. We can always have a little bend in the knees. Draw the belly in, belly towards thighs. Nice strong hands. The head can be relaxed towards the ground. So we may choose to just pause in stillness in this pose. Again, if we want to take it to a little bit more of an inversion. Next inhale, we'll float the right leg up parallel to the floor. So again, that means the hips stay level. This builds up more core strength as well because that leg is hanging out there. And then we can move into down dog split. So point the toes, lift the leg up, and this opens the hip up. So it's almost like you're trying to stack the right hip on top of the left, but keep your shoulders square to the floor. Big breath in. Now on this exhale, I want you to move in slow motion. You move the leg back through parallel, re-squaring the hips. Strong core, use those muscles, and then lower the foot down to the ground. When we make that big movement, we move from open hip to square hip. It's really important that we move slowly. Our slow back people especially. Other side, left leg lifts up, nice and strong. You're using your glutes, your hamstring, your low back muscles. The hips are parallel to the floor. Then we can point to the toes of the left foot, start opening the hip, lifting the leg up, down dog splits. Good. And some of you are modifying, and that's great too. Head should be looking down, shoulders are square, breathe it in. Exhale, slow motion. So you're going to bring that left leg back down, pull that belly in. You got to move through level first, and then bring the foot back down to the ground. We'll pause and neutral for breath. And then inhale and lift those heels up, stretch out those feet and toes. Exhale, drop the knees to the ground, point the toes. Come off the hands completely, sitting back in child's pose, whether you place the hands on the forehead or to the feet. And pause here. Hands under the shoulders, tuck that chin. Inhale, let's round it up one vertebra at a time. Once we sit back, we'll just shift our weight over to either hip and bring our feet forward. So we're coming into our first seated pose of this class anyway. So we'll want to prop our sit bones up on something. I forgot to mention, we are going to do our alternate nostril breathing and then sit for a few moments in our meditation tonight. So if your sinuses got worked up, especially all this upside downness, I could already feel my sinuses draining. It feels great. So you might want a tissue. I forgot to tell you at the beginning of the class. So we'll do a few rounds of Nadi Shodhanam. We'll sit for a few minutes, and then we'll finish our class in an inversion of choice. So any position in your legs is comfortable. Most important part is that we want to have a tall, long spine. So we want to have just as much space to the front of the spine as we do the back of the spine. Our head should be easily floating on top of our shoulders. And we should be able to maintain this for the whole time. So what we've been doing in this class is I've been guiding verbally 3 rounds and then allowing you to do however many rounds you can. We might do a little different because the rate of our breath. So I breathe pretty slowly. So my 3 rounds might last a little bit longer if you have a shorter breath. So don't worry about that so much. I'll just cue us when it's about time to wrap it up. So sit up tall. We'll be breathing in and out through the nose as best we can. Taking chin mudra again in both hands, index finger to thumb. You may rest your palms down or palms up, whatever energetically feels best for your body tonight. In your right hand, we come into the Sagra Mudra. So you start by making the peace symbol, glue the index finger and middle fingers together, open the thumb, the ring, and the pinky. These are going to be our pinchers for our nostrils. We spin that right hand in towards the face, and we take the middle finger and index finger and press it into our eyebrow center. Again, activating that acupressure point and literally helping hold our head up in place. Lightly place the thumb on the outside of the right nostril and the ring and pinky on the outside of the left nostril. To begin, we inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. Then close the right nostril and inhale through just the left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's 1 round. Inhale left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's 2 rounds. Inhale left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's 3 rounds. Try to do at least 3 more rounds at your own rhythm and pace. If the right arm starts to get tired, place that left hand under the right elbow to help prop it up. Try to maintain the posture all the way up to the spine, to the crown of the head. And if one side is more clogged than the other, just do your best to breathe through that side as much as you can. When you get to that third round or your next round that you're on, we want to finish with the exhale out through the left nostril. So whenever we take that last exhale out through the left nostril, we'll keep our eyes closed. We'll release both hands back into Chin Mudra onto the knees. We will fix our internal gaze at that third eye center, where we might still feel that subtle pressure at the center of the brow. Maintain the posture in the body, sitting up very tall and erect. You may try to visualize a bright light shining at that eyebrow center. Relax the face completely, the mouth, the tongue, and the jaw. Keep the heart elevated, but allow the weight of the shoulders and elbows to fall away from the ears. Feel the weight of the hands on the knees. Allow the weight of the lower half of the body to sink towards the ground. But from the tailbone up the length of the spine to the crown, lift and lengthen towards the sky. And then on our next breath in, we will slowly and softly start to flutter our eyelids open. Take your time, there's no hurry. And bringing our awareness back to our surroundings. Once the eyes are open, we'll give our legs a quick stretch so we can just rest our hands beside the hips. Stretch one leg out at a time. Maybe try to straighten one leg at a time. Wiggle into those feet and toes. The most challenging part of our yoga, sitting still to meditate. Once we get some blood flow back into those legs, you can give them a little wiggle, a little massage. All right, it's time to come down onto our backs. So for this series of classes, I've been giving you guys a soft portion of class to kind of pick and choose if you want to go into an inversion of choice. So if you do have headstand, shoulder stand, or another type of inversion that you practice in your personal practice, you're welcome to do it. I do put a warning label on it that you should not be using any momentum to get into those poses. So there should be no kicking up and trying to throw your legs up in the air. That can cause some serious permanent injury that I'm sure none of us really need or want in our lives. But if you can control it, if you do it with props, even the wall, you're more than welcome to. I don't want you guys not to do it. I just do not want you to suffer any consequences of it. I'm going to be choosing to do a supported bridge pose for my inversion tonight. So if you want to join me for that, you can. You can also just throw your legs up over a piece of furniture that might be nearby, back into your chair, Or slide to a wall and slide your legs up a wall for legs up the wall pose. We'll hold our inversion for several minutes, and then we'll move into Shavasana to absorb our practice. So if you want to join me, you're going to want a yoga block or a firm cushion or folded blanket to take underneath the low back. I'm going to grab my yoga block. We'll have space down behind us. You can either walk yourself down tonight or do our slow roll down by planting the feet, opening the knees, drawing the belly in, reaching forward, just making sure that core is still working for us, and bring it on down. If we're coming onto our backs here, we'll want to adjust any ponytails or hair clips so that the back of the skull can rest. Want to loosen up the clothing, and we'll just stretch everything out for a moment, bringing the arms over the head, finding symmetry down that middle line of our body. And then we'll float the arms down, draw the shoulder blades under, step the feet in parallel to each other, heels in line with the sit bones. We'll tighten up the backside, those hamstrings and glutes, squeezing to lift the hips up. And if you're using the block, I recommend starting on the lowest setting first, just to always check in. Remembering that the block is supporting the sacrum, low flat part of the back. A little bit of flesh of the buttock hanging off will be there. Maybe shoulders walk under a little bit more. We want to keep the chin up and the neck arched away from the ground. We can squeeze an invisible yoga block between our thighs, making sure the knees aren't falling open. So this is a gentle inversion. Our heart is just slightly higher than the head. Sattu Bandhasan is legs stretched out forward. You can try that one heel at a time. The feet stay flexed to help protect the knees. This will open up those hips. We did do some flexion tonight in our forward folds. So if we're doing this option, it will also open the hips. Now, if you feel like you can take it a little bit higher, you would step your feet back in towards the sit bones, squeeze the hips, the hamstrings, maybe come up on the medium setting of the yoga block. I wouldn't lift up onto the high setting. It gets a little unstable then, but you know your body, you know your practice. Any other version of an inversion we might be doing tonight, even waterfall pose. We're going to hold for several moments, so close the eyes, steady the breath. And you're always welcome to release it sooner and go into your Shavasana sooner. Otherwise, we'll try to hold for about 1 more minute. Let's all take 1 more breath wherever we happen to be. If the legs are still extended forward in full bridge, step those feet back in. Secure the arms, strong shoulders, strong feet, tighten up the backside. We want to lift up just enough to slide the prop out, and then we'll melt the back down to the ground. Pause for a moment. Maybe gentle windshield wiper side to side here. If you were in legs up the wall or another inversion, any movement that seems natural to help transition out of it. Maybe we need to hug the knees in or drop them over to the right and left for a gentle twist. or take a happy baby if you feel like you need some last movement before final Shavasana. So final Shavasana, if you want to keep your legs in a more gentle, elevated position, you may. Or maybe you feel good to lie flat to the floor and just let everything stretch out here at the end of our class. Or add some pillows underneath those thighs, cushion under the head. So we'll get ourselves comfortable. And whenever we are moving into our final relaxation, we want to do so with purpose. So we're not just flopping to the floor and forgetting about everything. To move into the pose, it should take a lot of concentration and awareness of how we're placing our body. We still want to create symmetry in the body as best we can. So adjust the shoulder blades, the legs, the arms. Find the very back center of the skull. Poof the cheeks, wiggle the mouth, tongue, and jaw as needed to release the lower jaw and tongue to gravity. Once we're in position, we cultivate stillness and we avoid any unnecessary movements. Let's take one more big breath before we also let go of controlling the breath. So next breath in, really fill the body up tonight. Feel that expansion. Let the belly expand. And then on this exhale, without contracting the muscles, just let the air leave the body naturally. Eventually letting go of controlling that breath completely. Letting go of controlling the body. Allow it to be a heavy weight on the floor. Let go of any expression on the face. Relax the hands and the fingertips, the feet and the toes. Relax the whole outside of the body. Soften and relax the inside of the body. If the mind wanders, we can rest the mind's eye at that third eye center tonight. We can mentally repeat a personal mantra over and over again, or simply bring it back to the peaceful breath as we give ourselves permission to let go, to relax, and to sink into Shavasana. Slowly coming back to the rhythm of our breath. And then slowly breathing life back into our body. Waking up the toes and the fingertips, a rock of the head side to side. Depending where we are in our space, we might be able to stretch everything out one more time. Reaching those arms overhead, pointing and flexing the feet, spreading the fingers and toes, or any other movement from our resting place. And on the exhale, we can walk the feet in and draw the knees in, maybe massaging up the back if that's an option. And then we'll bring the right arm beside the head, roll it over onto our right side in our sleeping baby pose, pausing here. And keeping those eyes closed or soft, press down into the ground to bring the body back up, revisiting any comfortable seated position. Sitting up tall, finding those sit bones, lengthening up the spine to the crown. Minding our surroundings, we'll finish our practice with just a couple more breaths together. Floating the arms out beside the body, turning the palms up to the ceiling. And inhale, breathing, let's reach those arms up and let's gather up everything we need for the rest of our evening. Turning those palms back out, big breath out to float the arms all the way back down. And letting go of all that other junk we do not need this evening. And once again, inhale, float those arms up. This time, bring the palms to touch. Exhale, hands to heart. Humbly bow the head down to the heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and anyone else that made it possible for us to practice our yoga together today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace.